like to report a body.
What do you mean a body?
A dead person.
Was it in the woods or?
It's in my field, and it's burned. And it wasn't here yesterday.
Can you tell if it's a male or female or?
It's pretty badly burned.
In 2002, a haunting discovery was made in a Michigan blueberry field. A metal trunk containing the burnt remains of an unknown man.
In denial, you might say. I thought, I really didn't see what I thought I saw.
Investigators initially dubbed him Jack in the Box, a moniker that would grow notorious in the years that followed. It wasn't until over a decade later, thanks to groundbreaking advances in forensic science and tireless detective work, that the victim was finally identified as Roberto Caraballo. But this revelation brought with it a chilling twist, a web of betrayal, murder, and a sinister family conspiracy. This is the story of how the Jack in the Box case was solved, shedding light on a chilling murder that left a permanent scar on Michigan's history. On May 8, 2002, a farmer working in a remote blueberry field in Ottawa County, Michigan, stumbled across an unusual and disturbing sight: an old metal trunk lying among the bushes. The trunk was severely charred, giving off a terrible smell that suggested something gruesome inside.
I didn't believe really what I saw. I was hoping it would go away.
What he hoped was just an illusion turned out to be a gruesome reality. A body, brutally burned beyond recognition, left to rot in the trunk. When police arrived, they pried open the scorched lid and found the remains of a body, burned beyond recognition. Detectives later determined the man had suffered blunt force trauma before being placed in the trunk, drenched in gasoline, and set on fire. The scene left investigators baffled. The body's condition made identification nearly impossible, as any fingerprints or defining features were destroyed in the blaze. And without signs of a struggle at the scene, detectives believed the murder likely happened elsewhere before the trunk was abandoned in the isolated field. With no witnesses or clues to help identify the victim, the case became an uphill battle for investigators, eventually going cold as they struggled to piece together who this man was and how he met such a brutal fate. Despite the best efforts of law enforcement, early leads in the case yielded no significant progress. Investigators canvassed nearby communities, seeking information about missing persons, unusual behavior, or anything that could help identify the victim. At the time, forensic technology was limited, and with no DNA database matches or fingerprint identification, detectives found themselves without answers. For years, the only details available were vague clues provided by the forensic examination, which revealed that the man was likely middle-aged and had suffered a violent death. The case became one of Michigan's most perplexing unsolved mysteries. The media picked up the story, and soon the victim was known as Jack in the Box. True crime enthusiasts and the public were captivated, wondering who this man was and why his body had been discarded so brutally. Without a clear direction, the case grew cold, but detectives continued to revisit it, hoping that new technologies or a fresh perspective might bring the truth to light. Over 13 years after the unidentified body was discovered in 2002, the case that had long gone cold saw renewed attention in 2015. Investigators had previously exhausted all leads, but a fresh tip from an unexpected source gave them the momentum they needed. A woman from Texas named Ducharme reached out to law enforcement in early 2015, sharing a suspicion that the unidentified man known as Jack in the Box might actually be her stepfather, Roberto Caraballo, who had mysteriously disappeared years earlier. Public interest in the case also grew around this time, partly due to a documentary titled Jack in the Box, created by a group of local students. The film rekindled the community's focus on the unsolved murder, drawing more people into the mystery and encouraging anyone with information to come forward. This surge in public engagement, combined with advances in forensic technology, opened new investigative avenues. The Texas Woman's Call prompted law enforcement to revisit the case, examining the victim's remains with updated DNA testing methods. Following the woman's lead, detectives pursued DNA analysis, comparing it to the samples from the Texas family. The results confirmed the woman's suspicion. Jack in the Box was indeed Roberto Caraballo, a 37-year-old who had lived in Charlotte, Michigan at the time of his disappearance. This breakthrough transformed the case from an unsolved mystery into a focused investigation, marking a turning point that allowed detectives to shift their efforts toward finding those responsible for Caraballo's tragic end. With this identification, authorities now had a wealth of new information, providing both a name and a life story to piece together. Roberto's identification illuminated his family connections and history, creating new leads and offering a fresh perspective on possible suspects and motives. Now let's look at who was Robert Caraballo. Caraballo was described by friends and family as a friendly and hard-working individual. He had been living with his wife, Beverly McCallum, her daughter Deneen Ducharme, and Deneen's friend Christopher McMillan at the time of his death. His relationship with Beverly, however, was reportedly tumultuous. Friends and relatives described ongoing family disputes, tension, and arguments over finances. It became evident that Caraballo's life had not been peaceful, and this led detectives to investigate whether someone close to him could have been responsible for his murder. With Caraballo's identity confirmed, authorities turned their attention to his immediate family, particularly his wife, Beverly, her daughter Deneen, and her friend Chris McMillan. The investigation revealed that Caraballo had been killed in the basement of their home in Charlotte, Michigan, before his body was taken to the Ottawa County field. Detectives suspected that Beverly McCallum had masterminded the murder, motivated by financial gain and family disputes. Reports from interviews and witness statements painted a chilling picture of premeditation. Beverly, Deneen, and McMillan were believed to have plotted the murder in detail. According to some reports, Beverly may have been hoping to benefit financially from Caraballo's death, though no life insurance policy was confirmed. Instead, it appeared to be a murder driven by personal conflicts and resentment, with Beverly exerting control over her daughter and McMillan to execute the plan. Investigators learned that on the night of the murder, the three suspects lured Caraballo into the basement of their Charlotte home, where they attacked him with a blunt object, causing fatal injuries. Once Caraballo was dead, they reportedly placed his body inside a metal trunk. To dispose of the evidence, they drove the trunk to a blueberry field in Ottawa County, doused it with gasoline, and set it on fire, intending to erase any traces of their crime. The meticulous planning and gruesome disposal method highlighted the ruthlessness and determination of those involved. This is Chris McMillan trial hearing.
And Beverly starts to tell Deneen, give me the hammer, give me the hammer. Well, Deneen takes the hammer and with her right hand wants to hit him a couple times on the left side of his head. Beverly jerks the hammer away and with her left hand on the left side of the head hits him like 3 or 4 more times until the hammer was in his head. So he was on his knees with the hammer sticking out of his head. I took the hammer, I pulled the hammer out. I'm holding the hammer. There's a hole, about $half size. I turn back around and there's a bag on his head. Deneen's behind him. He's laying on his back with a rope. Deneen was holding the bag. Beverly was sitting up on top of him to keep him from moving. And he laid like that until the bag quit moving in and out and he quit breathing.
Forensic science played a critical role in tying the crime to Beverly, Dineen, and McMillan. Blood evidence found in the basement matched Caraballo's DNA, and traces of gasoline and accelerant on the metal trunk were consistent with attempts to destroy the body and any forensic traces. The work of forensic analysts, combined with advances in DNA testing and collaboration with local law enforcement, was essential in establishing a clear narrative that placed the murder in the family home before the body's transport to the field. Under mounting pressure, Christopher McMillan ultimately agreed to a plea deal. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he provided a detailed account of the events leading up to Caraballo's death.
Dineen and Beverly wanted to get rid of him because he was abusing the kids and Beverly physically, mentally, sexually. Dineen told me that Beverly wanted to knock him unconscious and suffocate him.
McMillan described how Beverly had orchestrated the murder, manipulating him and Dineen into assisting with the crime. His confession confirmed that Caraballo had been killed in the basement, lending credibility to the prosecution's case and ensuring a solid foundation for convicting Beverly and Dineen. Ducharme faced multiple charges in connection to Roberto Caraballo's murder, including murder and conspiracy to commit murder. During the trial, Ducharme attempted to position herself as a reluctant participant, arguing that her mother, Beverly McCallum, held a strong influence over her and pressured her into participating in the crime. She claimed that she was manipulated by her mother, who allegedly coerced her into becoming involved in both the murder itself and the disposal of Caraballo's body.
My mother, she was the only parent I had, the only family, the only consistent family. I've always just wanted family.
Her defense team argued that Ducharme was a victim of circumstance and had been caught in a web of coercion by McCallum. They attempted to illustrate her role as passive and reluctant, suggesting she did not have the intent to engage actively in the crime, but was rather pushed by a stronger personality. However, the prosecution and investigators were skeptical of her defense, arguing that the evidence contradicted her claims of manipulation. They suggested that Ducharme had not only known about the plan, but had participated willingly, taking significant actions to cover up the crime. The evidence presented indicated that she was not just a passive bystander, but was actively involved, from the physical assault on Caraballo to the steps taken to dispose of his body and obscure evidence.
As she was going up the stairs, my dad began to pull her by her ankles to pull her back down, and that she grabbed the nearest thing she could with her right hand, which happened to be a crowbar, is what she said, and she swung it like that, the back of her head, to try to get away from him, and that her words, he started bleeding.
Beverly McCallum fled the country in 2015 when she learned about the investigation's renewed focus on her. She moved to various countries, evading authorities until she was finally located in Rome, Italy, in 2019. The international aspect of her arrest added complexity to the case, requiring coordination between the United States and Italian authorities to extradite her. McCallum's efforts to resist extradition ultimately failed, and she was returned to Michigan to face charges in Caraballo's murder. In Michigan, the legal proceedings for Beverly McCallum and her daughter Dineen Ducharme began with charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and mutilation of a dead body. The prosecution argued that the murder was premeditated, portraying Beverly as the driving force behind the brutal act, motivated by both financial greed and malice. Prosecutors alleged that Beverly meticulously planned Caraballo's murder, enlisting the help of her daughter Dineen and friend Christopher McMillan to carry out her scheme. McMillan, who had previously agreed to a plea deal, testified against Beverly and Deneen, providing insight into the plot's details, the crime scene, and the events that transpired in the aftermath. This plea agreement lessened his sentence in exchange for his cooperation, leaving Beverly and Deneen to face the full extent of the charges alone. Prosecutors used McMillan's testimony and other evidence to establish the roles each person played, highlighting Beverly's leadership in organizing and directing the crime. The trial and subsequent legal decisions brought a measure of justice and closure for Caraballo's loved ones and the community, who had waited years for the case to be resolved. Another notable thing is that the murder of Roberto Caraballo may not be the only crime that Beverly McCallum is involved in. Amanda suggests that Beverly has a history of exploiting her relationships with men, some of which extend beyond the United States. One significant case involves a man Beverly married while living in Jamaica, a man who had known her for over 20 years. This individual mysteriously disappeared, and despite efforts to contact Beverly, he remains a missing person in Jamaica.
And the man that she ended up marrying down there, his name was Riney. And she actually had known him for like over 20 years. All the kids called him Uncle Riney. And then mysteriously, they get a frantic call in Texas saying, hey, something happened. You need to get us back over the border. And nobody has heard from Riney since. He's still actively a missing person in Jamaica.
It's believed that Beverly and her children fled the country after his disappearance, adding to the suspicion that her criminal activities could be part of a broader pattern. This man's sudden and unexplained vanishing, coupled with Beverly's history of relationships marked by manipulation and violence, suggests that there may be other hidden crimes linked to her. This ongoing mystery raises questions about how many more victims might be connected to Beverly's past. The resolution of the Jack-in-the-Box case captured public attention nationwide. As one of Michigan's most haunting unsolved cases, the story of Roberto Caraballo's murder and the betrayal by those closest to him resonated deeply with audiences. Media coverage and true crime documentaries have continued to explore the case, cementing its place in American crime history. The legacy of the investigation is a testament to the dedication of law enforcement and the impact of forensic science in delivering justice, even when hope seems lost. The tragic murder of Roberto Caraballo, concealed in a metal trunk and left to burn in a Michigan field, is a grim reminder of the dark side of human nature. After years of mystery, justice was finally served, revealing a chilling story of betrayal and family deceit. Caraballo's memory lives on as a reminder of the lengths to which investigators will go to uncover the truth and deliver justice for victims, no matter how much time has passed. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more true crime stories. We're bringing you deeper dives into cases like this one every week. Let us know in the comments if there's a case you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.